We are live with another episode of the Daredevil Born Again After Show. This is for episode 9, the season 1 finale. Or is it the season 4 finale? I don't know. It depends on how you count Daredevil series. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and we also got...
your co-host, Ms. Marauder, aka Sara.
And special guest for today, we're doubling it up on Sarah's. We got Sarah B, Movies and Tea, with... us make 3.
Heck yeah.
I just came up with that.
That was pretty good.
Those are my skills. Yeah, thanks. Sarah, I'm glad to have you back on the show. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, it has been a hot minute. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah. You I'm trying to remember the last episode that I had you on, and it may be X-Men 97 when that came out and we had you on.
Yes, it was. And the funny thing is that when you were saying that, I was also trying to figure out when the last time was, and I was like, was it a Doctor Who thing? And then I was like, no. But yeah, that was that.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. You know what I do is when I invite people back on and whatever, and I'm like, oh, when was the last time? I go on like our share or our tagged pictures that or I go to your Instagram, I click the tag one, and then I look through for when I tagged you, and then hopefully that's correct. But X-Men 97, that's been a while. How's life been between X-Men 97 and now?
Life's been great. I don't even remember when X-Men came out. When was that? Like last year?
It was back in 1997.
Okay, cool. So I wasn't born.
Yeah, neither was I. Neither, and none of us were. Mm-hmm.
No, life's been good. I think between then and now, I graduated and now I have a job and I'm doing content and it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you, and this is something we've been asking all the guests throughout our episode. And also, just, prefacing this episode, if you're watching us live out there, you're watching us on youtube.com/The Keeg Show or twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, or maybe you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. But wherever you guys are at, hopefully you've seen this final episode of Daredevil Born Again, and let us know you're out there. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, write a review. Let us know. Anyway, Sarah, were you a fan of the Netflix Daredevil show?
Oh yeah, big fan. I just didn't like season 2, but other than that, loved the show, all of it, except for season 2.
Like, did you absolutely hate season 2, or were you just like, it's not as good as season
1? Like compared to season 1 and 3, it's like very subpar. But I liked the beginning. Oh my God, I'm going to send Sara into a coma. I feel like by saying this. Like I'm just watching your reaction.
No, it's okay. It's just, I think that I was not, like I was on Tumblr, I guess, when it first came out, where we were just doing thirst edits, maybe, and fanfic. So there wasn't any real discourse. So I didn't really realize, and it's not just you, a lot of people have said this, the dislike for season 2, because season 2 is my it is my favorite. Season 2 is my favorite. So that's why people don't respect my opinions on Daredevil. But I love season 2. So I was actually kind of surprised. I've been surprised to hear most people say that they don't like it as much. Especially I always thought season 3 was the one people didn't like as much, but now I'm realizing it's 2, which it surprises me. Yeah. I'm not angry. I'm just surprised.
I've heard general consensus is that people didn't like season 2 except for Punisher stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
except for Punisher stuff. I thought the beginning was okay. Like the first few episodes were good. I just, whenever like the way that I view it is like, what is the most skippable season for me is season 2. Like if I were to rewatch it.
Yeah.
I did realize in rewatching it that the reason I hated Karen Page is because I rewatched season 2 so much, and season 2 Karen Page is tough. Season 3 Karen Page I really like, and season 1 Karen Page I really like. So I was like, okay, it was coloring my view of Karen that I like season 2 so much, because I don't I think Karen and Frank should get together, not Karen and Matt, but I guess we'll talk about that today.
We will definitely talk about that today, especially what some people are putting up on TikTok. There's maybe a third option, you know.
The challenger's option.
The challenger's option. That's what we'll call it. What was I gonna say? Oh, hot take from me personally is that I like season 2 because I like the Hand, and that's gonna also fit in with what I think about this season. Because I thought that like I just need Daredevil to go back to like the Hand and stuff. I love ninjas, and I just love Daredevil versus ninjas, and I love them as just bad guys. And so, anyway, that's my thing. So, Sarah B, as you were looking forward to, like, as you had watched the Netflix show, were you looking forward to this show coming out being like a kind of a sequel or a season 4 or it's like its own show? Were you looking forward to it, or were you kind of like, oh no?
I think I had an oh no moment, like just based off of what Disney Plus has produced, I wasn't like too confident. But it, I mean, obviously it's amazing. And I was excited to see Daredevil again. And like he's been kind of like soft launched in other like MCU projects. So I was like, okay, yeah, great. Reappearance, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was really excited, but I was like hesitant at the same time, like cautiously optimistic. Like, will they pull this off? Like, it's such a big story to live up to. And like going into season 2, I was kind of viewing it more as like another comic book as opposed to like a continuation of what happened.
Wait,
If
which
that
one
makes
did you
sense.
get?
What?
A continuation or another like
No,
comic?
I was like viewing it kind of like as like a separate thing with
Yeah.
the same characters type of thing.
Yeah. It's funny. I love comparing TV shows to comic books as a medium because they're very similar. I think like comic books work, like the structure of comic books works very similar to the way like TV shows and seasons work, right? Is like every 6 issues of a comic book is an arc, and it could be comparable to a season, or sometimes depending on the show, a show does like multiple arcs in a season. So like Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. towards the later seasons had like 3 arcs in a season. And so that was like 3 6-issue comics, right? And in this was 9 episodes, and this was the finale. And whether it feels like a finale or not, I'm not quite sure. But I don't know where I'm going with this, other than I like TV and I like comics. So, it works out. Quick thoughts for this final episode before we kind of go over everything. Did you guys like it or not?
No.
1, 2, 3, no. It's okay. You
Sorry, no. Yeah, no.
I kind of liked it, kind of didn't, and I think let down. Maybe I'm let down by my expectations.
There were definitely things to like in it.
Yes.
But overall I did not like it. I think it's very interesting that they did like the anti because like Disney Plus, its big problem is they're like, oh my gosh, finale episode, we gotta have a big fight in the sky, right? We gotta punch, we gotta have explosions. And this one was like, what if we do, let's not do anything. Like, okay,
Yeah,
that's cool too.
I mean, my issue wasn't like that in particular. I wouldn't even care if there was like a fight or not. It's just that there wasn't anything, period. Like there was a lot of walking around. There wasn't even a lot of talking. There wasn't fighting. Like you got to have one or the other, and they had nothing. They had a lot of very great skyline shots. I think the only character that stood out to me in the final episode was Daniel, the director of communications. He was great. And I was like, yes, you've completed your arc for this season, and I feel great about you. But like everything else, I was like, this actually sucks.
Let's not erase the fight scene of Daredevil and Punisher versus the cops. There was that fight scene.
Yeah.
And I hated it.
Was there another?
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
Scene?
I liked the first one. I didn't like the second one.
Was so there 2?
There's Daredevil, there's at his apartment, and then there's Punisher at Red Hook, I'm assuming, with the cops.
Yep.
which I have so many gripes.
Let's.
So many gripes. Which I
Is there an order to your gripes that we could attack
well,
each one? Sarah?
so
Do we go chronological?
I know that I have been pretty down on the whole season. What I did in the past week is I rewatched the entire season. I binged the entire season because I take copious notes. So I was like, and some of my complaints are nitpicky. So I was like, let me just watch it and see how it goes all together and see the progression.
Yeah.
And kind of see where I stand on it. And I took some like, highs and lows, like what's my big thought of the episode notes, because I can't stop myself from taking notes.
Yeah.
But I did like as I'm cutting my fabric, I have it on, right? I watched it the way I normally, watch my TV shows.
Right.
The
co in co-host stands for copious notes.
Copious notes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sara copious notes, isn't he? And I think I pinpointed a lot of my complaints, and it really just kind of like made them stronger. Like the complaint I had about the Heather Matt relationship and how mean he was to her, that a guy on Thread said is why I'm single, because I'm okay with the way that Heather acts, which I thought was hilarious. I was like, I'm actually single because I don't leave my house and talk to people. But I was like, maybe I'm wrong. And I went back and I was like, no, they're like happy and they have seemingly a sweet relationship up until like she first says, like, I'm thinking about writing a book about vigilantes. And then he's like, okay, actually, I hate you. And then he's so mean to her and so like gaslighty for the rest of the season. And when he wakes up in the hospital bed and says, Karen, first of all, that's tough. Like, that's real tough. But then he's talking to Kirsten, so he wakes up and he's totally manic, right? Sorry, I'm just going straight into it.
Yeah.
He's super manic. He's like, it was Fisk, Vanessa, she ordered the hit on Fisk, and Kirsten and Heather are both trying to calm him down. They're like, hey, just got shot in the shoulder chest area, like, calm down. They're reacting in similar ways, but he's only really mean to Heather. He's so mean to her. She's like, hey, she says something to him, and his face, he goes, I'm sorry you don't believe me, but I'm telling you the truth. And like the way that his face looks when he says that, he might as well have been like, go fuck yourself. Like, he's so mean to her in that moment in a way that he is definitely not to Kirsten. Like she almost got killed not that long ago. Now he almost got killed. And it's like I think I'm personally like sensitive to, and maybe it's because she was in the Acolyte, right? Which was hated so aggressively, that it's like to bring in a female love interest for Matt Murdock just to seemingly get the audience to hate her so that you can bring in Karen and have everyone excited that Karen is back. At that point, I'm like a little bit angry at the direction then that you take her. Like to introduce her as a love interest just so that there's no other way for you to take it other than like, I hate her, and people online being like, she's such a bitch. Like the hate that's going to cause, like, I know the actor is a grown woman, but like unnecessary.
You're going to hate my opinion.
But if you hate her, that's what they want you to do, right? Like they want you to think that she sucks, right? But at that moment, she does, right? Because that's how they wrote her. They wrote her to suck, right? And they have their moment when he says that to her, when he says that, and he's so mean. I actually had to take my dog out for a second, so I had to pause. And while I was out taking my dog out, I was like she has to team up with Fisk now, right? Like she has to be 100% out on Matt. And then when they did that, I was like, oh, okay. All right.
It's so weird.
Okay.
Because I still can't figure out whether they knew that she was with Matt or not when they hired her. It's just there's things that fell through the cracks. Sarah, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I hate her. I will hate her forever.
Yeah.
I think she was written that way, and I think she's written perfectly, actually, because every single love interest that Matt has been a compatible match, and to have a love interest that is just like the antithesis of what he believes in is testing his personality and is testing how he reacts to that situation. And yeah, we saw him be a little mean, but in my personal New Yorker opinion, it wasn't that bad. It's just like if you're born and raised New York, that was not mean at all.
That was
There
New
is
York
like
nice.
10 times right. That is New York nice, and we're trying to tell you something. And the fact that like, I think he really tried. Like he's trying to like say like, and in that first moment between her and Matt, where she's like coming to him and being like, "Oh yeah, vigilant." Like I basically, you know, I was the one who saved myself, not like this vigilante daredevil. I think in that moment he's kind of trying to reason. He's trying to be nice and like, are you sure? Like, did that really happen? Like, kind of trying to be like this middleman between him and himself. And like by the time we get to him in the hospital and she's still pressing this topic, like at that point he's like, "You're not believing me, and like I know him better than you do, and here's why I should know him better. It's because of all this history that I've had, and you should probably know that because it was in like all of the newspapers throughout New York." Like
Yeah.
there's a whole like, even if she doesn't believe his verbal like what he's saying, she can literally go back and do her own research. So in my personal opinion, I think she's being dumb. I think she was written as dumb. And I think that that dynamic is really great for Matt to have, and for her as a character to be presented as like almost like antagonist in a way is really brilliant in my personal opinion. I mean, I feel like they don't need to always have a perfect match for Matt. And I think having, I know Sarah touched on like having Karen kind of show up as like a hero almost in Matt's life, and like have that be the new relationship, but that's kind of up in the air. And I think, yeah, fans are excited for Karen to come back, but not necessarily because of the relationship, but because it's Karen. That's my opinion.
I think there's a lot of people that don't like Karen, and I think that they got them to like Karen by putting Heather in.
It's
it's kind of the way.
I mean, I still don't like Karen, and they put Karen back.
So I went back because this was a thing as the founding and only member of the Heather Defense Squad. Join our newsletter. So on their first date, she asks him about Fisk because she's like, "Hey, it seems like you guys have a history," and he's like, "Yeah, our paths have crossed over the years." He's very vague about it. So she does not know his history with him, or she doesn't know how in-depth it was or how traumatic it was, right? So that's what
she could pick up a laptop, right?
Well, I'm glad you said that. In the other episode, in actually the first time she brings up the vigilante thing, she says, like, maybe you can help me because you've worked with vigilantes. And he says, "What, are you researching me now?" Like he immediately is like, so like, I would not Google. Well, actually I would Google him again. Cause why are you being so defensive? Right. Like he immediately, like, that's when it starts, right? Like they should have broken up at that moment. Right. They immediately, like and I think the thing I can't stand with anyone is I cannot stand a passive aggressive person. Passive aggressiveness is my least favorite thing in the world. And I think, like, I would rather him be mean than passive aggressive and like gaslighty, which he is to her the whole time. Like,
yeah, of course you wouldn't like someone who's passive aggressive.
Like when he's like, "Sweetie, I bump into things. That's just part of my life." Like, and he lies to her about going to work. She's like, you didn't bring your briefcase. And he's like, "Well, I went on a walk." And she's like, "Well, why'd you lie to me?" He's like, "It's embarrassing, sweetie." I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, the lying about the bruises and the lying and then being like,
yeah, but
like,
he did that with like Foggy and Karen. Like, I mean,
did he do it? Like, I don't think he did it. Like, he said he was out. Like, they said he was alcoholic. Like,
pick a lane.
Like, again, people on Threads are very mean. Someone's like, "This bitch doesn't understand secret identities." Like, I understand needing to keep your identity a secret, but like, you don't have to be a dick about it. So, and I think just the way, and it was the 360, the 180 within the relationship of like, they do seem to have a nice relationship in those first couple episodes, there is like a genuine care in his voice for her. And then as soon as she's like, yeah, I'm thinking about writing my book on vigilantes, he's like immediately checked out. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't give her another genuinely kind interaction or like genuine interaction after that. It's like the wall is up, this is over.
Almost like they changed creative teams halfway through and changed writers and
That's so
direction
weird,
of the
right?
show. So Sarah B, what we've been talking about this whole time is the fact that this show has had a very rough production where they changed creative crews and like everything halfway through. So a lot of what we've been doing in the after show is trying to figure out where those seams are and like what their original intent was and then what the intent is now. And you can see kind of the shift this episode specifically, and like some other ones were filmed after, right? And so that's the direction they're going into season 2. But then there's episodes like the White Tiger stuff that was very, you know, before that, right? And like I don't know, trying to like I can definitely see there's such tonal inconsistency throughout the whole series. And I want to chime in about secret identities is because like what's very interesting is like Marvel for the most part does not deal with secret identities, like the MCU at least, not the comics. The comics has secret identities, but like Peter Parker, Matt Murdock are like two of the only people that are dealing with secret identities. Like there's a couple other people, but for the most part, like Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, they're all like public names. And I think it's funny because like I think it's because we as a movie going TV watching audience are tired of secret identities because of 3 things. One is Smallville having 10 seasons, Spider-Man having multiple movies before the MCU, all the Sony Spider-Man movies. A lot of it is angst of, should I say the identity? Should I not? Should I tell someone? Should I not? How can someone know my identity and how can I keep them safe? And then the third is like the Nolan Batman movies. I think that was like a big angsty point, and I think it's over. Like, I think people are tired of secret identities. So when Daredevil does secret identities, I just get this weird CW vibe of like trying to figure out ways to keep the identity safe when like maybe you just tell Heather or not tell Heather and just not be with her. I'm not quite sure, but like even the Flash TV show, like at a certain point, everybody knows Barry Allen's the Flash. Like halfway through the run. So I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that he should have probably broken things off the moment she started talking about the book. And then they should have progressed her character in that way, not necessarily like as a relationship. I mean, like I understand why they did that, but like, I mean, at the same time, I understand the opposite. But like, I guess in terms of secret identity, like both Daredevil and Spider-Man, like they have kind of stakes. I mean, Peter Parker wants to, become something professionally when he graduates. So I understand like him wanting to keep that side of himself like closed off, that could make matters worse in terms of like college applications, getting a job. Like who wants to do that? Like you don't see any of the Avengers like we saw in Captain America, the TV show, that he's Sam Wilson's having an issue with like getting a job, having money, like because of that persona. And especially when you're a lawyer and then you're like, I'm gonna tell people like the whole thing is very messy. Like if you were to have like a doctor or a therapist be a superhero, my guess is that they would be masked and secret identity wise, because that is a professional career and it's like more like don't tell anyone. And at that point, I do believe you should pick one or the other, but obviously Matt has an issue with that.
Yeah. We have some people in the chat. We have Harith in our chat on YouTube. Harith is saying, looking back at the episode list, the only episodes that Harith dislikes actively are episode 6 and 7, which I think are the Muse episodes.
Yeah. I did research because of course I did. So episode 1, episode 8, and episode 9 are like totally new with the new creative team. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
made
That
the
checks
pilot
out. Those were like literally the best.
from scratch. Episode 2 and 3, I think. So what they said is they had 6 episodes pretty much done when they came in to overhaul the series. 1, 8, and 9 are like from scratch. And then they said that they like would add some of the episodes were largely untouched, they said, or like completely untouched. And then some they like went in and bookended stuff.
Yeah.
So I can see episodes 2 and 3 being like pretty much untouched, right? That's the
White Tiger stuff.
Yeah, that's the White Tiger stuff. We actually get to see Kirsten and Cherry in a scene without Matt in it, developing their characters. Do you remember when we did that, you guys? Remember when those were characters? And I think maybe they added in the therapy with Fisk and Vanessa, because I don't think that was a big part of the original storyline.
Yeah.
So that's my theory. And then so I think episode 2 and 3 are like pretty close to what was the original. And I do agree that 6 and 7 worked the least for me.
Yeah.
I made like little highs and lows, and episode 7 I put like so much
It wasn't good.
I'm starting to think that maybe because I was bringing up that the episodes switch back and forth on whether like the police gang is a gang or whether they're good guys, and they keep switching back and forth because there's like weird scenes where Matt is with Officer Powell in the courtroom, and he's like, how dare you say I'm a bad cop? My father's father, my father's father's father, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, my dog, we're all cops. We're
Everybody's
good people. And like he hears his heartbeat and he's like, you're right, you didn't kill White Tiger. And it was
well,
this
he
weird
didn't
thing.
kill White Tiger, so I mean,
Not him personally. I have a problem with Cole North, by the way, but we'll get to that. And like, so it's flip-flopping back and forth between whether these guys are good or bad. Definitely in this episode, they definitely pick a side on whether these cops, the Punisher cops, are bad or not. But they like flip-flop, and makes me think that like the Punisher cops are part of the new reshoots that were then they kill off White Tiger, because we don't see Camar dos Los Reyes, I believe is his name. We don't see him without the mask at the end. He gets shot with the mask on. So it makes me think like they inserted that into it afterwards, because there's like such a tonal problem with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sarah, your detective work is showing, so good job.
They also, I was reading about it, and they were like, one of the most shocking things was like, the Hollywood Reporter reported that Corman and Ord's episodic take was a large divergence from the Netflix series. First of all, that's wild to me, because episodes 2 and 3 are like the most reminiscent to me of the original Daredevil series.
Yeah.
Like the amount of time spent, like the deep conversations about what it means to be a hero, like Matt stepping in, fighting for the little guy, right? Gaslighting himself into thinking he's okay with not being Daredevil by telling him, you won't miss being him. And then like the wild work of telling everyone that your client is a vigilante, right? He's always made incredibly strange courtroom decisions, right? Like that episodes 2 and 3 are the most Daredevil this show was, I think. So the idea that the creative team went in, the powers that be at Disney Plus and Marvel went in, watched episodes 2 and 3 and went, this isn't working, is absolutely bonkers to me. And one of the things they said, including that Cox did not appear in costume as Daredevil until the 4th episode. Like, who literally cares when he puts the freaking Daredevil suit on?
A lot of people do.
I know, and I don't. I don't. Like, for me, the ending of episode 2, in the ending of episode 2, when the cops are beating, so he's got the smug, like, I'm so sorry, I'm visually impaired, I'd love to help you, right? But I can't. I don't know where he went,
Was
right?
the fight in the apartment?
And then, yeah, in the apartment, and then they're beating the shit out of him. you get the blood drip and they bring out the gun and he's like, don't do this. And you know he's saying, don't do this, because if you do this, I'm gonna have to be right. I'm gonna have to do the Daredevil thing. That is the most Daredevil. This is my hot take. That's the most Daredevil he was in the whole season. He was never more Daredevil than when he was beating those cops up, and including anytime he had the actual horns on. That's my favorite fight of the season. That's my favorite moment of the season. When he, does it and he puts it back on and he's shaking and he does the yell like that. Wild to say that the episode peaked there for me at the end of episode 2.
Yeah.
But it never, the excitement that I felt at the end of episode 2, never got there again. That was the most excited I was.
I'd like to also bring up the fact that I think it's very interesting that we're all coming at it from like kind of 3 different angles, similar critical angles, but 3 different angles. And it kind of comes down to like, what do you want from a show just in general, but what do you want from a Daredevil show? What do you want from a Daredevil sequel show? It seems to me that the original team did not have Matt interact much with the MCU. It was very self-contained. It seemed like that was kind of what they were going for. And then the powers that be, because people are losing faith, and I don't think it should be that they're losing faith, but some people are losing faith in the MCU as a whole because they want that old school flavor of like everything connected, whatever, that they were like, no, we need to have him, we need to like reinvigorate this brand of like faces that we know, as opposed to new faces and no masks and like Karen and Foggy gone and like Bullseye gone and like whatever. And I think that they were like, no, let's shift this show into something more MCU instead of like a new Daredevil show. Harris did bring up that all the Vanessa stuff is new. I forgot about this. Vanessa had a different actress originally. So anytime you see the Vanessa that we know, that's all reshot with the new team.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Why it's so bad.
Those should have been Muse therapy scenes.
Oh.
If they were all Muse therapy scenes, it would have been good. Because in revisiting the Muse stuff, the scene with Muse is interesting because he tells, we'll talk about Muse later. Harith in the chat said that the end of episode 2 had to have been a new scene, but I don't think so. So that's all based on we have to find the guy, the White Tiger stuff. We have to find the guy on the platform because, and that's like a huge plot point in the episode. And I think the other reason you can tell that it's not a new addition is because it was drops of blood and it wasn't a full bucket of blood coming out of Matt Murdock's face. What is, it's almost like they got to episode 7 and they were like, you guys, we found like $6 million left over. What should we put it in? Blood? Yeah, blood VFX. All right. And like the amount of blood coming out of people is crazy.
I can imagine though the conversation that happened with shooting the new team or with the changing creative crew. Which is probably they're like, look, we can't have it be self-contained stuff. We got to bridge it to the broader thing. The vision of like anti-vigilante task force and registration act or whatever, we're going to be moving that into like season 2 with all the reshoots. And then I'm sure somebody brought up like, well, then what makes this like a Daredevil show as opposed to just like this like kind of normal MCU kind of thing? What makes it special? And they're like, oh, the fact that we can say fuck and we can do a lot of blood. That's what makes it Daredevil. So it's MCU plus blood equals Daredevil, when really the original Netflix show was like blood, sure, but it was the pacing and the tone and the symbolism and the themes and whatever, which you don't get in this.
And it wasn't people saying fuck, because they didn't really do that in the original show. So.
Yeah.
I feel like the big problem, so my kind of refrain has been, at what point do we stop saying the storytelling was really good? Because remember, they had to stitch 2 seasons together, and just say the storytelling was bad because they stitched 2 seasons together and that didn't work. Right. Like, I think part of it is they looked at the first batch of episodes and said, this isn't working. So if you say this isn't working, we're going to throw all of this away, then you have to throw it away, right? Or if you say this isn't working, we have to try to stitch it together, you have to take the threads and stitch them, right? So we get in episode 2 and 3, we get Hawkberg, right? Who's the DA? He's the DA, right?
I don't know. He was in the, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
And we never see him again. He was the DA that was prosecuting an anti-vigilante case that was saying, just because these guys do good things that are heroes doesn't mean they can't also, like, this should be a person that Fisk is working with, no? Like, wild that we never come back to him, right? Like, you put vigilantes on trial in the second and third episode of your series. Like, you have to connect that, right? And
that wasn't the original case, though.
But it became the case.
Yeah, but like, I mean, his role was just to, you know, prosecute, and then that's it, and like defend the cops, and that's it, and that's the end of the story. And like, I feel like his role was so insignificant that it almost felt like, okay, fine, he can like drop off. Like, there are multiple people in Fisk's world. In fact, 50%, according to like the polls, that believe that like vigilantes should not be. So technically, like, all of those people should have the main role. But I mean, I see, you know, I also see like the first 2 episodes is like really great. And then, you know, when we get to Muse, there's no backstory for him. So there's no connection, and there's no like, we don't have any feeling or whatever. And then by the time we get to episode 8, again, it's really great. And then episode 9 falls flat again. But yeah, I feel like sometimes like side characters are just there to prove the point and then to enhance the plot of maybe another character.
Yeah,
and for this case, it enhanced the plot of the cops, who are being like portrayed as like 75% are bad and 25% are like good, and that kind of is representative of reality.
For the sake of time, I do want to say that we have maybe like 20 minutes left with Sarah B. But I mean, we could, Sarah Z, we could continue after that point. But here's there's a couple of big points that we gotta go through before. I didn't mean to cut you guys off. I'm sorry, but just for the sake of time,
we'll talk more about the finale.
Yeah, we got to talk about the finale, because here's a big thing that, you know, we really need to touch on. That goddamn head giving me nightmares. What the hell? Yes or no? Is that good? Not good? People were going like bananas. They were like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, this is Walking Dead level gore.
It was insane. And I think it was just there to like appeal to what people wanted. And it was just like, whatever, 10 seconds. Let's just give them 10 seconds of what a lot of people want. Let's just prove that like Daredevil can be this dark character in Disney Plus. So I think that's why it was there. And they used all practical effects. So it was like, again, like, okay, fine, this is a practical way to appease a lot of people in like 3 seconds. And it was disgusting. I had to mute. It was like, oh my god.
Yeah. It was disgusting, bringing up my Game of Thrones Oberyn Martell trauma, but I didn't like it. The way they were talking about it before the episode, like, oh, you guys, just wait till you see this. I don't like call me a snowflake. I don't like violence for the sake of violence, and I think people saying like it was a big step up from the head smush right in season 1 with the car door, and I'm like, I don't think it was. Like, visually, sure, but I think for Fisk to do that in front of all these witnesses, like, first off, you gotta like double check, like, hopefully he vetted that everybody in that room was like, that seems like a huge liability of a thing that you just did. But it's also like, this is what I'll do to you.
Right.
But someone, I made a whole TikTok about this. If you want to give it a watch me talk about it for 3 minutes. But someone in the comments said what they would have loved to see is if Fisk made the cops in that room kill Gallo. Right? If he made them like beat Gallo to death. right? To be like, are you with me or are you with him? He's against us. He doesn't care about you. What are you going to do? Right? That idea of them taking him down as opposed to like, I'm going to squish his head because wouldn't it be dope if I squished his head? And it seemed like, you know, and I know that someone's going to be like, Kingpin in the comics, squish someone's head. And it's like, yes, true. But that's not enough. It's not a good enough reason to do it.
It's all about tone. It's tonal consistency. Yeah. And like this episode was like, okay, let's be inconsistent with the tone, which is let's show the goriest stuff that we can to show that we can do it, you know? And then
and that's never what the Netflix, and I think people are like, you can't compare it to the Netflix show. And I'm like, okay, but they creatively overhauled the show to be more like the Netflix show, to be a continuation of the Netflix show. So don't tell me I can't compare it to the Netflix show. The violence was never the point in the violence was a part of it, but it was never the point. And it was always like very grounded, very like, you know, it was brutal, but it wasn't like over the top for the most part. Like there were like I'm remembering the Punisher scene where they're like screwing his foot in, right? And then he shoots that guy in the face with a shotgun, and we see it, right? Like there are moments like that of like intense brutality, but it's always like for a very specific character reason. And this one, the crushing of his head just seemed to be like, this is gonna look really cool.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
like that's literally what the director said, is like, this is gonna look really cool.
Yeah.
And in a season, like if the season was consistent, I think I would have been okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be like, sure, heck yeah, throw me in a crazy looking Skull Crush. But when there's not a lot going for it, the season, the face crush did not.
Also, Muse wasn't even that like gory. Like if Muse's methods were a little bit more gory, tonally that could work, showing that Kingpin is essentially like in the same vein of this type of killer, right?
Yeah.
Sarah B.
Yes.
How do you feel about the violence in this episode? Violence as a whole, Gallows head, the hole in Gallows head, whatever.
I don't think I had that big of an issue. I mean, I had an issue with Gallows head. I thought that was, again, like I said, I thought that was just like appeasing an audience. But I felt like violence as a whole this entire season has been pretty scaled back, and I feel like it was all in character and hasn't really been all that much violence. Like I think the most violence we probably saw was with Bullseye, which made sense, and then with in the finale. But I felt like throughout the season it was pretty, you know, methodically done. I think the goal was to get, you know, Matt back in the suit. And violence was kind of like a mediator to do that.
Yeah.
But I think again, like the way that they got him back in the suit by, you know, doing 3 different storylines only to just develop one was not correct, and I felt like it lacked continuity. But yeah, I think for the finale, the violence was pretty good. Like it was okay. It was fine. It is what it was. I just felt like actually no, I lied. The finale in terms of violence, every single fight scene besides the first one was not good. Like I felt like the Punishers was not good in terms of like, why the hell are you going into a building that you know you can't get out of, that's out of character for the Punisher? And just like going in for what's sake, and like why didn't you just carpool with Daredevil? Like there were a whole lot of plot holes in terms of that. And then the second fight scene was like obviously Kingpin murdering. Again, in character for Kingpin, a little over the top, appealing a crowd. The first fight scene I thought was really great in the dark in Matt's apartment. I thought that was like, okay, this makes sense just based off of what had happened prior at the hospital. So up until that point, and then everything kind of dropped off the face of the earth, like during like, I don't even want to say the second half because it wasn't even like halfway in. It was like 15 minutes in, everything fell to the ground.
Yeah.
I wrote in my notes, talking between Matt and Frank, smiley face. Fighting with Matt and Frank, sad face. Like I for me, it's just so bizarre. It's again comes back to like we wanted it to be more like the Netflix show. And I'm like, what is the thing in the Netflix show about the fights that we always remember? Right? They are dirty, they are grounded, and they are like the iconic one shot, right? Like the
Right.
hallway fight scene, the one shot fight scene. This show cannot stay on one scene to save its life. Like the cutting between the Muse fight and the Kingpin and Adam fight, then we're cutting between this and cutting between this. We're cutting between the Punisher into Gallo. And then for some reason in the first fight in the apartment, we're doing slow mo.
Supposedly, I read
Why
that.
are we slow moing?
I
Like,
read that the
I don't
slow
even
mo
remember
was
this.
to show that Punisher enjoys it. That's what I read. Is that Punisher, just like the final scene, which we'll get to, was they supposedly chose not to do cameos to show that it was more of a they lost moment as opposed to a hopeful moment of like Luke Cage and everybody, being there at the end. By the way, the fact is they said Luke and it wasn't Luke Cage. I was like, pick a different name, man. Pick it like
Francis.
Like, okay.
Bill!
Like, we're expecting to see these cameos and kind of playing with us there. Sorry, what was I saying?
The slow-mo.
The slow-mo.
Yeah, I didn't like it. And then we find out it was Cole North that killed
so
and then he blows up.
Yeah, here's the thing about Cole North. And I talked about it on one episode. Like, people want to talk about random characters being changed to female and how this isn't Norrin Rad as Silver Surfer, this is, Shia LaBeouf or whatever, and that's a affront. How dare they? But like, the character of Cole North is a good man, and he is a not corrupt cop in the comics. And you don't have to stay exactly to the comics. I'm just saying, be consistent by saying, like, be true to the comics. Like, Cole North was a corrupt cop in this, but in the comics, he is a good cop with a corrupt police force, and he fights against that police force. And he is an ally to Daredevil, and he also joins Foggy in his law practice by being like the sort of PI enforcer sort of character. And so this Cole North was just a bad guy who shot White Tiger point blank in the head. He's the one, like, he's the only one who brands his bullet casings, and like him.
They like,
yeah, he had no reason not to be a good cop.
Yeah,
the character assassination of the century is Cole North for sure. That's crazy.
They just kind of threw him away, which is fine if you don't. But it's fine if you don't want to use the character. If like you need a character that does that, don't name him Cole North. Don't do what, like, again, the CW did on its worst days, was bring in a random character and just name him a name that is in the comics and not make them that character. Like,
right. There was no reason not to. I mean, like, if he had like a different whatever backstory, I mean, there were good cops in this story that was being told. So, you could have just made him one of those cops, and like, having somebody on the force go directly against and stand out as a cop on the force that's going directly against the force would have been really beneficial. It's something we had in the original Netflix show. And I know we've had like a couple cops here and there, and we've I think my AirPods just died.
Yeah, it's okay. I can still hear you.
Okay, and like I know we had like a couple cops here and there at the beginning of the series, and there were cops in the bar at the end of the show, but like they were like nameless, they don't have any backstory, and I feel like for him it could have just been him, and we could have had an uprising that way.
Yeah.
Sarah, did you expect something more from the like we need an army, and then the like, did you, and I know there's a lot of people like, where's Spider-Man? And I'm like, that's always a problem, right? If you have people in the same spot, you're like, what is everyone doing? But were you hoping for anything there?
I mean, I thought that was such a dumb line. I was like, it's the Avengers. Yeah. But yeah, no, because the army was just like literally people at Josie's bar.
And Josie.
Like, What? And Josie, and it was like 10, maybe 10 people. I might be over the top on the
Yeah.
10 people. It might be less than 10 people, but like that's what your plan was. You saw all of these people standing on guard outside of that Red Hook building, and you're like, okay, let's have an army. And I'm like, here I am thinking, okay, we're gonna get some super power people, and maybe they'll be introduced in the second season or even set up in their own individual show. I don't know. And then you have that as the army, and I'm like, that's not gonna work. No.
And like White Tiger's niece, no. So like,
Here's
Right? That was right there. Like they could have at least at the bare minimum superpower being that was introduced in the show. Okay, her.
like genuinely and this is one of those things where it's like, I'm an English teacher, right? I'm not a filmmaker. I don't know how hard it is, but it seems to me like it would have been they pan to it's Angela, right? Is that her name?
yeah, it's Angela.
Yeah. So they pan to Angela. They give her a solid few seconds in the montage. Put the amulet in her hand, right? If you pan to Angela, she's looking at the crop cops. If you just put the amulet in her hand and show she is thinking about becoming the new White Tiger right now. Boom.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like have her
you
look at it or
advanced her,
something.
right? It's in her hand, it's in her pocket, right? Or something.
Something.
Right? Or something. In a perfect world, again, I don't know. I'm not expecting, I just saw that meme of like opening it up and all the defenders are there, right?
Yeah.
I don't really want that, but like, and again, I don't know how contracts go. I think that Kristen Ritter is like, I think she'd be fine with coming back. If you even have something of like a phone, like phone buzzing, right, on a desk, and then you just see her art, like she like silences the call and puts her like bottle down, right? If you just like give us something, right? And I think it's that thing of like, you don't have to assemble the Avengers, right? But if you're gonna have a line like we need an army, and then nothing, like if you don't want to do anything, then don't say we need an army, right? It's as simple as, you can't have it both ways. I think if you would have given us a defender scrap, give us one scrap, please, like of someone reaching out to someone.
Yeah. Show a yellow shirt, you know?
Yeah.
Show a yellow shirt, show a hand reaching for the phone, like do something. Yeah. Also, just the sake of like, if you even don't want them at Josie's at the end, you can have a scene, and this is something that Harith is saying in the chat, like have something like an X-Men 97 type of moment where you see some of these characters just out on the street, because we're missing the big impact, which is like, this is the anti-vigilante stuff. Like, obviously the first thing you think of is like, who are the other vigilantes? Otherwise it'd just be the anti-Daredevil squad, right? Like, it's the anti-vigilante
just Daredevil
squad.
And Swordsman. That's it.
And Punisher, right?
And Punisher.
And it's like, well, we know that this is New York. This is all of New York. This is not even Hell's Kitchen, right? Like, it's all of New York. Who are the vigilantes there? And people online have said, like, okay, Doctor Strange is probably going around in different dimensions. And I'm sure Doctor Strange isn't even considered a vigilante. And Fisk wouldn't even go up against Doctor Strange if he tried. Like, he couldn't. But Spider-Man, Iron Fist, you could say Iron Fist is traveling the world and it's not there. I don't care. But Luke Cage is definitely in the city. Jessica Jones is definitely in the city. Spider-Man is definitely in the city. If not more characters. Like, is Moon Knight, like, I don't know.
No, I think he's London.
Where was he? Was he ever in New York? I don't even remember.
He was in London.
Okay. Point being is, I mean, and then you have Angela, who has the amulet and whatnot. Like, you could do something, right? Like something cheap. Let's just say you go cheap. Money's an issue. Have hands and a shoulder to kind of hint at what. Or maybe they don't want them in the season 2, and it's just going to be a letdown, and they will never touch cameos.
Gotta be wild.
Yeah.
What if all we ever get is Swordsman?
Yeah, that was so disappointing. I was like, of all the characters.
Season 2 is going to be called Daredevil and Swordsman.
By the way, we are getting a Punisher special presentation his own little mini movie before we get season 2 of this. Just so that's been noted. So that final end credit scene of like Punisher breaking out. First, that guy's so dumb. That guy's
Yeah,
so
like,
dumb.
and also to get captured and then to literally break out, I'm like,
Why?
this whole scene was pointless, is what you're saying by
unless he lets everybody
doing
else
that.
out.
Huh?
Unless he's letting everybody else out.
Which he didn't, though.
We don't know. We don't know.
I mean, but he like ran away.
Did he run away? Did we see him?
Did he run away? Wait, maybe I'm
I think he just
remembering.
breaks the arm and he's like, ooh-ah, ooh-rah, as he does. And like, that's...
I thought he got out and ran away, but I could be wrong.
It's the dumbest... That guy is the dumbest guy. Like, just shake my hand. Like, what? That's
Listen,
like Joker
when you
level
talk about
buzzer man.
Jersey, you get everyone involved.
What is going on? Shake my hand. Like, pull my finger. Like, what is the Punisher doing?
But I think if you, oh my gosh, I'm going to say something nice about the show. If we're under the impression that the Punisher, the task force loves the Punisher, you'd be excited to shake his hand, right? But then you should probably be smart enough to know if we have him here, that means maybe he doesn't like the task force. Which I also have a TikTok video complaining about that scene. If you'd like to watch my 3-minute rant. Punisher task force.
I mean, we will have. I mean, if you want to continue ranting, Sara B, movies and tea. Do you have any final thoughts before you have to jump off?
Well, this season was a season, and Daredevil was definitely Daredevil.
He was Daredevil.
I would like, honestly, I think if they took out the entire, okay, I have two things actually. Either if they took out the entire Muse plot line, or if they took out, I know this is gonna be controversial, but like the White Tiger plot line, I think if they did one or the other, then I think the season would have been really complete. Muse would have like allowed for like that campaign that Fisk was running against vigilantes to really ramp up a little bit better. And then obviously the White Tiger one would do the same thing as well, but it would also give like Matt Murdock the opportunity to like be that lawyer and then also kind of transition to Daredevil. And I understand why they couldn't continue with his plot line. I get that, but like the amount of reshoots that they did, I feel like there could have been a little bit more, like Sara was saying earlier, a little bit more connection if they were going to do both. But yeah, the season finale kind of like was a little bit of a letdown. I said on TikTok, like episode 8 could have been the finale and I would have been happy because it was a perfect cliffhanger. It was a gorgeous episode. I thought it was, I mean, personally, I loved that episode. It was my favorite. But yeah, I mean, it could have been worse, honestly, just based off of what we've gotten from Disney Plus and Marvel, and I feel like that's sad that I'm even saying that.
Yeah.
But compared to like Netflix, it doesn't live up to that, but it was okay. I give it like a C. If I'm
Yeah.
great.
I can see that being a controversial take, but I totally agree with you where it's like, it's the Ron Swanson don't half-ass two things, you got to whole-ass one thing, right?
Yeah.
If we're gonna do the vigilantes are dangerous, Daredevil being Daredevil, we got to do more Muse. If you want to do more of the legal stuff, you got to do more White Tiger. Yeah, I agree that if they can't do, and neither of them had much of an impact then on the creative overhaul big plot.
Yeah.
Right? Where they both ended up seeming insignificant. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'd never want to lose White Tiger because I think that those episodes work so well.
Yeah.
So I if I had to pick one of the two, I would have to lose Muse, which is a shame because he's looks so cool.
I think one story thing could have made this all better for Wilson Fisk's plan and just the story is that the audience knows that, or the people in New York know that Muse is a serial killer. In the comics, Muse takes Punisher cops and makes them into a mural, like makes them into an art piece. I think if he did something against the cops, Fisk could have said, you thought he was a serial killer, but he's actually a vigilante. Vigilantes are serial killers, and they do not, neither of them operate under the law, and then looped Muse into the reason why he's doing what he's doing anti-vigilante style. Like, a little thing there, But like, I don't think when they filmed Muse, they had the Punisher cop plotline, because Powell is a good cop, kind of, in those Muse scenes. He's not a I will literally kill anyone who gets in my way like he was in the other scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm not making excuses for the show, because the show was totally inconsistent and fragmented. I don't blame the creative teams for doing what they are told to do. That's, I think, the difference. And that's how I feel about comic books and writers in comic books, is sometimes the writer of Spider-Man is told they can't do what they want to do with Spider-Man because it's Spider-Man. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, I think my whole thing is just like, but maybe again, maybe this is because I'm an English teacher and I like teach how to do critiques like thoughtfully and like not personally. Like, I'm not saying that anyone did like a bad job and should be embarrassed or ashamed, right? Like, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio were saying like they didn't really love the direction it was going, and it's like, okay, well, you guys know the characters best. But it's hard for me because some of the stuff that was clearly from the original version is stuff that I really liked better than this. But
Yeah.
I just think it's getting a little bit dishonest and disingenuous of like, well, it was originally 18 episodes. So remember, this isn't really a season finale. It's more like a mid-season finale. And it's like, but it's not though, because they overhauled the season. So this is a season finale. So like, it was supposed to be a season finale, and it's okay to say it was a, an inconsistent and like maybe an unsatisfying season finale. Like, that's fine. Like, it's kind of like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of stuff, right? Like, you could say, like you were saying, Sarah, like you could say, it was fine. I'm always happy to have more Daredevil, but like, I didn't think the season finale was very good. And that's not, I think people think that saying something like, I didn't really like the season finale, I didn't rock with it, I didn't think it was that good, is being like, fuck this show, like everybody who likes it is a dick. Like, I think that people are you can do both. You can like the show and you can want it to be a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm hoping season 2 at least has one direction. So before we get going, and if Sarah Z has thoughts after Sarah B gets off, then we can talk about that as we close things up. But Sarah B, Movies and Tea, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking Daredevil. It was a lot. It's a lot to talk about. I feel like we're not only talking about season 9, we're talking about the series or the season as a whole, right? And or episode 9 season. You know what I mean. But the point being is that like a lot to talk about, and we will never get to everything, our gripes, or whatever. But thank you, Sarah, so much for coming on the show. Do you have any closing thoughts before you get going?
No, I don't think so. I think I said everything I needed to say. I will always be Heather hater, and I'm sorry. And I will always argue that very aggressively. But yeah, I mean, I really liked being on the show. It was fun. And thanks for having me again.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Where can people find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
I am Movies and Tea across all platforms, and I don't have anything coming up currently, but I am talking about Doctor Who on social media currently as that's airing, and other kind of nerdy stuff. I'm also kind of touching on the Pit, so stay tuned for that as well.
I hear the Pit's
That's
really
my
good.
that's my next watch.
It's really good. It's really good.
Do they change creative teams halfway through?
No, they don't.
Okay. Do they show a man's head getting crushed? That's actually more possible.
No, but it's very gory, but it's consistently gory because it's a medical drama.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, but like it's probably the best medical drama that I've ever seen. Like, it's the most realistic medical TV show. I don't even want to include the word drama because it's just really, really great medically.
I'm excited because I used to watch ER with my mom.
Yes.
And I loved Noah
That's what I've heard it
on
compared
ER.
to.
I loved him on ER, so I'm very excited. I actually might watch this with my mom because I think she'll like it too.
Okay. Maybe I might give it a shot. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? But Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody out there, follow Movies and Tea on all social media. I think Sarah Z might have some more things to talk about with Daredevil, but Sarah, thanks so
gonna-
much for coming on, and
Okay.
it was great having you.
Yeah, it was great being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't want to keep you if I mean you got
Well,
things to do.
I'm sure you got like closing thoughts.
I do. I I thought it was funny. So I did, so I don't do Twitter, so I did dip my toe into Threads.
Right.
Which is my first kind of experience with that format. And I was also in I think her TikTok handle is Fantastic Frankie.
Yeah.
I was in her comments, and people were lighting me up in her comments. Really being mean to me.
Oh.
And it was so funny because at one point, like 30 comments in, someone was like, "What do you want? You want Matt to be pathetic and crying?" And I was like, that's exactly what I want. That's the kind of Matt Murdock I like. But we were talking about especially episode 8 and him taking a bullet for Fisk, and everyone coming at me was like, it was after episode 8, so before episode 9, and they were like, it's because he said you're supposed to take a bullet for your worst enemy. You defend your worst enemies. That's what you do. And this is going to complicate the relationship between Daredevil and Fisk because he took a bullet for him and blah, 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 blah. And then it was like, such a nothing burger. Like,
Yeah. Because Fisk
like
didn't cut him any
Punisher-
slack or anything.
Fisk didn't cut him any slack. Punisher was like, why would you do that? And Daredevil's like, I don't know. Good question. And then never mentioned again.
I mean, people online are saying that like it's because of Matt that this is like Matt should have just let Fisk get shot.
Yeah, but then, so my question is, they have this whole plan for the Safer Streets initiative, right? We're going to do martial law. My question, first off, is why did Kingpin put Bullseye into... He knew that Vanessa did the hit already? Did he already put that together and so he wants him to just get murdered in Gen Pop?
I don't know.
Or does he want him to escape? So
He doesn't
that
want him to escape.
There was an interesting moment, and I had to watch it back, and then I was like, okay, maybe that's not what I thought it was. Sorry, I've got...
It's all right.
Because Buck says Murdoch saving you does complicate the optics. Murdoch saving you complicates the optics.
Yeah.
And that's when he's like, no, what if he succumbed to his injuries? A dead hero is better than a live vigilante. And I was like, what optics? The optics of anti-vigilantes because a vigilante saved you, but nobody knows he's a vigilante, or the optics of us using the attempt on your life to lock down the city. Because he uses the Bullseye thing as an excuse to like shut it down, excessive force, no body cams, kill everybody, do the blackout. But it seems like that plan was already in place, right? That was already like ready to go.
Right.
So what was going to be the catalyst to do that, if not Bullseye trying to kill him? I'm very confused. My whole thing was like, was he wearing a bulletproof vest so that Bullseye would try to kill him? And then you would say, oh my gosh, we have to lock it down. A vigilante tried to kill the mayor. Right?
Yeah.
Like that makes sense to me. And then it was like, well, Matt jumped in the way, which kind of messed up our plan. And then Fisk is like, well, no, it didn't, because, if he died, that makes it even better. Right? That all but then the Bullseye of it all doesn't make any sense. Right? If he orchestrated Bullseye getting out,
Yeah.
then it makes, because putting him into Gen Pop,
I don't think he wanted Bullseye to get out, but then because he wanted Bullseye to die, right? And like,
yeah, because that's what Buck says. When Buck picks it up, he's like, "Tell me he's dead." And he's like, "No, actually, he escaped."
Yeah, so he's on the way. I think it's the optics after the fact, right?
Yeah.
Like they already had everything kind of in play. Bullseye just kind of helped out in a way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like little things. Also, like the thing where Fisk is gaining weight plot line, which like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah,
never
it took
brought
him
up
like
again.
two weeks to bulk up so he could crush Gallows' head.
Is that the
Yeah,
point?
I guess. And then, but they say that Fisk is the one that put him in. That's very confusing to me. The way that they rolled out Bullseye and then to not have him in the finale until the very end montage was wild to me. But like
Yeah.
we see him, first of all, love pathetic Dex there in the beginning when she's telling him. But that was my thing, and I think you corrected me last week when I was like, why would Vanessa do it? And then we got to the thing. But then when I rewatched the first episode, it is not clear that Bullseye kills Dumb Benny. Because
Is Dumb Benny there?
no, so
Who is he?
Benny is the witness,
Okay.
right? That was getting threats. And so he was at Foggy's apartment and he calls
that's right.
Foggy, right? But Benny, we hear like a scuffle, and I was like, oh, okay, so he did kill him. But then when Bullseye is already at Josie's, Benny calls Foggy again. And it's like, Foggy, I'm so sorry. He wanted to know where you were.
Yeah. Well, I thought that it was a distraction, right? Like that he was trying to pull Daredevil to the other side of town.
Yeah, but then Vanessa at the beginning of the finale says, I want you to kill Benny and I want you to kill Foggy. But as far as we can tell, I don't know. I guess he like is bleeding out, and his last thing he does is to call Foggy and say, I'm so sorry. But like, it's not super clear to me that he killed him. So yeah, so that was, and yeah, that was confusing to me. But yeah, the whole plan of, so like the story would be over if Matt didn't jump in front of Fisk, but the reason that Matt jumped in front of Fisk was, I don't know, like Matt doesn't know himself, which I think is,
I think you can't have it both ways. Like Matt,
yeah,
to me, is like he will throw himself in front of a bullet and then get mad at the people closest to him because he threw himself in front of a bullet and can't tell people, but he's doing the like, and it's like, it's just yo-yoing. And this is, I'll be honest, as we close this up, is like, it's my least favorite part about Daredevil. Is like, I know people like the angst, and like, I guess I like the angst, but I also need Daredevil to be actually like doing something.
Yeah. I like when he's being angsty, like to himself. Like when it goes outward, because that's something that I noticed is once we got to like episode 6, like the angst was really protruding outward. Like there was a good relationship with Cherry, right? There was a good relationship with Kirsten and with Heather. And then
Cherry who?
Like at episode 6, like once he puts it back on and he's like, back in the day, you were calling me. Like he starts, and it's very interesting because everyone's like, yeah, it's like in season 3, right? Where he pushes everyone away. And it's like, no, he actually like was doing kind of good. Like he was doing kind of okay episodes 2 through 5, seemingly, even if he was kind of like empty, right? And kind of trying to believe that he was okay.
Yeah.
He did have what seemed to be meaningful relationships. And then they were like, actually and then they like took them all away with the overhaul, which I thought was kind of strange.
Yeah. I'm trying to make sense of the overhaul. That's what I think it means. I think they were just like unhappy with like it just being like a TV show artistically, maybe with one vision. And they were like, no, we got to connect it. Because again, I think that like generally speaking, people are like, what is Marvel doing? So they want familiar faces. They want the same chicken nuggets from, from their favorite restaurant. And it's like, well, we're trying to give you like, show you the rest of the menu. And they're like, no, just want chicken nuggies, And it's like,
and the chicken nuggies, like I do like chicken nuggies. Like I love Bullseye, but like to bring him back to take one shot at Kingpin, and then you want me to believe that he would not do a headshot first off, but like you want me to believe that he'd be like, oops, I missed, let me go, right, and then not do anything else, is wild. And it's like we got Karen back, and genuinely all of the Karen and Matt stuff I really liked. We are making odd choices, like leading me to believe that he can feel the engraving on the avocados at Law thing through his thick ass gloves. Take your gloves off, Matt. Like that, like little moments like that though, that are like, that's the attention to detail, right? Of like,
The engraving on the casing, though, that was also a thing.
Yeah, through the gloves. Right. So there's that. And the idea of like, here, just put in the chat, he doesn't want Fisk to become a martyr, but it's like Fisk became a martyr anyway because someone shot at him. Right. I think Fisk, as a martyr, I don't think anyone's as brutal as Fisk, right? So are you okay?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, I'm using my secret sense, my super senses. No, I'm trying to think of what show was it? What did it was Mickey 17. Did you see Mickey 17?
No, I haven't. I didn't get a chance to see it in the theaters. Which was a mistake I'm not going to make with Sinners. I will go see Sinners in a movie theater because I heard it was friggin' crazy and amazing.
I'm scared, but I want to watch it.
I asked someone if it was scary, and they were like, no. There's like a couple jump scares, but it's not like a horror.
I'd rather know when the jump scares are, and then I can watch the rest.
Someone told me that it gave them a similar feeling to Nope.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I was like, okay, because Nope had moments in it that were scary, but I love Nope.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, I think that there are figures that are more powerful as martyrs, right? To inspire. I don't think Fisk would have been that because like the task force is already murdering people in cold blood. Yeah. Like they don't need a martyr. Like
oof. The one guy who stole something, right? And then they were just like, oh, we just want to shoot people.
Yeah. And I think that leads into my Frank thing, which is if we're going to be so explicit, right, about what the task force is doing, they shoot someone who is clearly a teenager dead for looting and then say he was a vigilante, right? We're being really explicit about how evil these fuckers are, right?
Well, that's why we're supposed to be okay with the massacres.
Yeah, they're straight up murderers, right? So then when you have Punisher, because you saw how giddy I was, right? When they had the Punisher tattoos, and I was like, ooh, Frank's coming, right? He's gonna tell these guys what for. And then he really does it, right? Like he calls them clowns a couple times, and I'm like, that is not enough. Yeah. You need to explicitly be like, you are taking a symbol that's based on my pain and you guys messing up. The cops didn't do anything. The cops are you guys are all the reason my family is dead. I'm taking it out on dirty people who deserve it. We're not the same. You're using my symbol to kill people that you want to kill. Like, we're not the same. And the fact that he was just like, you guys are clowns, you don't know my pain. And I'm like, okay, you don't know my pain, I kind of get, but like calling them clowns is not enough.
I just thought of a piece of dialogue that I would have written in, and that is like, what does that skull stand for you? For you, it's an excuse. For me, it's a reason. Boom.
Literally, exactly. Like, yeah, like they're using it as an excuse, but it's his reason. And right. And the moment I brought up in my video, I brought up the moment from the comics, right, where it's like, he tells them to look up to Captain America instead, where it's like, these cops are too far gone, right? They don't idolize Captain America, they idolize you. But it's and I think a lot of people are talking about how like, it's so topical, right? That's it. In my video here, that's what I talked about I actually quoted it because I was like, I wanted to look up the exact quotes and compare them, right? Of like, you're all clowns, it's a circus, versus you don't do what I do, nobody does, look up to Captain America. But it's like, it's too far gone. Like, they're not going to look at that. And I think the show is not paying enough attention to, you are having this like cool Punisher fight scene with blood squirting everywhere. And we love Frank Castle.
Swiss cheesing a guy's face.
Yeah, we're Swiss cheesing the guy's face. Every stab wound is like people do not have this much blood. I'm so sorry. Like it's like over exaggerated violence because you're like, this is what the people want. But then the message you're going to try to send is like, you guys are clowns for liking you didn't send. I don't think the message was set. And the whole like Fisk as like a Trump allegory, people kind of acting like that's a revolutionary thing is kind of wild. Of like, wow,
we don't have enough time to go through all of that, but I was thinking about that, and I think that it's worth watching Mickey 17 because people have created comparisons between Mark Ruffalo's character that's why I thought it was very interesting. But I think that because people out on like Reddit and whatnot are like, oh my god, could they tell the future and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, I think there's a certain like steps
Pattern.
that have
Yeah.
happened in history and geopolitically that like
And also, it's not like it was written in 2015,
Right.
right? Like we've all, yeah.
right.
And I think it might be for me, like I physically don't know how I'm going to watch The Boys, the next season of The Boys, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a point at which like if certain things you're doing are on the nose, the opposition to it has to be on the nose too. Right. So like,
and
if
also
you're
I'm
setting up
hoping The
this
Boys
business-
teaches lessons, but I don't know whether that's what they want to do or whether they want to laugh at people. Like teach people, like get people to understand maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, you know, we can talk more about this also in person. So,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, I think it was not clear enough with its messaging, and it should have been more clear.
Yeah.
It should have been more explicit. He should have told them why they were clowns.
Yeah. I mean,
some people need that explained to them.
The new creative,
and I think the task force is that.
The new creative stuff, like here, it's a good example of like why Marvel and Disney and whatever think that changing the creative crew it'll be fine, is because a lot of people are watching this show and being like, yeah, it was good. Like they made it up at the end. It was good. Cool. Moving on. And I think that we are dissecting it to a level that like most people don't.
Yeah.
And, or at least they don't do consciously. And if they do it subconsciously, then they decide, I don't like the season. I don't know why. But it's not even worth thinking about. We're just going to move on. I think that like Marvel made that, the Marvel Studios made that decision to be like, look, we can't scrap the footage we have. We got to make it something new. We got to shift it over. We're going to do our best. And in the end, it'll be salvageable and we'll get a season 2 and then we'll have one cohesive direction. Whether it's the right direction or not, at least like stick to your guns, you know?
Yeah. And I, on the one hand, I do love to see people putting their faith in, sticking up for Daredevil as a TV show, right? I was there with and my dear friend Nat was there with the like Save Daredevil campaign, right? Like fighting tooth and nail to get this thing back on. So I'm glad that it's going on the positive side of it, right? I'm glad that people are giving it, a chance, right? I think some of it is just, I think, and I think good faith critique is one of those things that is is important to have.
Yeah.
And I like to think that that's what I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, like, it's one of those things where like Daredevil is my favorite food. So even if I'm having, right, this is my 4th favorite type of pizza, right? It's my least favorite Daredevil season. It's my 4th favorite type, it's my, but it's still my favorite type. It's still pizza and I still love it. So it wasn't like a slog, right? Watching back the whole season, it wasn't like, oh, I hate this. Like, I was in the bubble bath, I threw a bath bomb in, watching Daredevil, right? Like that's what I do.
Yeah.
Cutting my fabric for my cosplays, watching Daredevil. And it wasn't, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a slog. I mourn a little bit for what I want to, Doctor Strange can open a portal and I can hop in to see what this 18 episode could have been. I think that's the thing at the end of the day that leaves me scratching my head, is how anyone could watch episodes 2 and 3, the bank episode, and think that it's bad enough to be like, we got to scrap it.
Yeah.
Because like the bank episode, I like took like my, my note on the bank episode, rewatching it was like no notes. I literally was like, I loved it.
Side note, I just thought at first I was like, oh, Miss Marvel is a vigilante. But then I also thought Miss Marvel also has like extra superhero protection. And also she's in Jersey. So,
yeah.
And
I want Matt and Kamala to interact almost
not so
like
much the superheroes.
Yeah, not so much the superhero element of it. But yeah, I think, in my mind, like, if we all know, I think Harriet said this in the chat, like, if we all know that some of the defenders are like, surely you must give us a defender.
Yeah.
Right? You have to. then in the finale, you gotta tease it, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
You have to have, like, instead of arresting Punisher just to have him break out immediately, maybe the sting, like, if the stinger, and I think having a mid-credit scene, like, if you don't like your cameos, that's totally fine. That's fine. Don't put that in the ending scene. Give us the walking out into a room of nothing. But then in maybe the end credit is Jessica Jones looking at her missed calls from Matt Murdock, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's, Jessica and Luke connecting and being like, did he fucking call you? Like, I'm not picking up his calls, right? Like, if we get a hint of where it's, if we're all expecting and they feel like they need to bring them back and we're like, it's an inevitability that we're going to get somebody on the team, then give us a hint as to who's going to be on the team.
We'll see. Maybe they haven't even decided. Maybe they were like, we can't allocate those resources to it until we
but season 2 is supposed to come out next March. Like, they're deep into I don't know. I feel like they should, if they were going to end it on that tone, they should have nailed at least one person down. And Kristen Ritter has been like teasing, like, she shared a picture of herself in a very similar outfit to Jessica Jones. So, like, I think you could have, I think that would have been a real, I don't know, but that seemed like it could have been an easy game.
I mean, it is what it is. What was I also thinking? I forget what I came up with. Anyway, we'll see. What I was gonna say, somebody brought up, if the Thunderbolts movie does not bring up any event, anything, even in the background or anything, because it takes place in New York, I think, in one spot, like, okay, what are we even doing here?
It was so funny where people are like, Fisk outlaws vigilantes, and then the first thing that comes is the sentry.
Yeah.
You're like,
well, thank you so much for not only being on this episode, but being the co-host for this whole after show and everything. So,
of course,
thanks.
Someone, I have to tell you, someone on Threads was like, I think this is what activated me to start arguing with people.
Yeah.
Is someone was like, is Daredevil Born Again the Andor of the MCU? And I was like, how dare you? How dare you say that to me? Like, that is insane.
No.
Like, I watched an Andor like edit that made me cry. It was just clips, and I'm rewatching it, by the way. It was the montage of everyone saying climb in all the different times, and I was openly weeping. And I was like,
please send me that. Please send me that one.
How dare you?
I'm finishing up Andor as I rewatch it to get ready. And shout out to everybody out there for watching watching and or listening. That we're gonna do an Andor after show on Saturdays on each of those weeks that Andor comes out. So definitely stay in touch for that. Sarah, before we get going, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Ms_Marauder. We are kind of in an off season for cons right now, so we're doing some long-term planning, but we got Star Wars night coming up, so I'm putting together a quick little Jawed look from Skeleton Crew to go with my daughter's KB, and then we're just prepping for Anime Expo and San Diego Comic-Con, so we got some big builds coming up. So yeah.
Awesome.
That's what we're doing, and I'll be crying about Andor every week, I'm sure.
Yeah. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. If anyone out there wants to follow me on social media personally, you can follow me at This Is Dimithri, pretty much on Instagram or Threads or Blue Sky even. I try to do my best personally, but I'm spending a lot of time on the Keeg stuff. So if you want to follow the Keeg and all the shows that we do on the Keeg, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at The Keeg Show, Blue Sky, Threads, all that stuff at The Keeg Show / The Keeg Show. Pretty much wherever you can find The Keeg on social media, it's The Keeg Show. If you are watching us live, you're watching us on youtube.com / The Keeg Show or twitch.tv / The Keeg Show. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, do your thing. Also, if you're listening to the podcast, it's wherever you get your podcasts from. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, probably some others. if you're into podcasts, listen to this episode, listen to past episodes, or any of the other shows that we do on the Keeg. This is the Daredevil Born Again After Show, and this is the final episode, at least for now, of this show. But we are going to be doing an Andor After Show. But we also have Comic Talk every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about new comics, DC, Marvel, indie comics, Daredevil comics as they pop up. Whatever we can read, we talk about, and that's every week with rotating guests, and it's pretty awesome. And I have a good time with that. Conventions wise, San Diego Comic-Con for sure. Planning on also going to New York Comic-Con. Just got done with C2E2, just got done with Anaheim WonderCon. So, a lot of cool things coming up. If you're looking for comics, go to comicshoplocator.com, find a comic shop near you, support your local comic shops, and support your local public libraries. Whether or not they have comics, and they most likely do have comics, support your local public libraries, because that's a super important part of our community, and especially in this day and age, we need public libraries. Super important. So, do what you need to do. Other than that, that is pretty much it. Thank you, Harith, out there for blowing up our chat in a good way, over there on YouTube. Once again, like, comment, subscribe, follow, let us know you're out there, for anyone else out there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Once again, you have been watching the Daredevil Born Again After Show for episode 9, the series 1 finale. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and
your co-host, Sara Zitney.
Have a great night, week, whatever. Hope to see you at the Andor After Show. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Super strong or super fast. Gotta beat the